Thank you. Welcome everybody. I am Angie Krenz. I am deeply blessed to be the executive director of this amazing chapter of Conscious Capitalism, Great Lakes Bay region, and I am excited to welcome you to our event today. I'll tell you what, I don't know I've been more excited for an event since we launched this chapter. This is an amazing group of humans in this room. Thank you for being one of them who's joined us today. Can you hear me all right? I'm knocking right back at myself. Thank you. So, again, I am deeply grateful to see so many incredible leaders, change makers, community advocates, all gathered here together. Together, this room represents a collective of force. It's a force that believes that business is meant to be used as a force for good, and that it is used to elevate humanity and create a future where purpose and people and prosperity all join together. So we are here at a pretty pivotal time. It's been an interesting time in our society here in the States. But as we reflect on post-election and the results and what they mean for our nation, I'm going to use some words from our dear chapter leader, Mark Sauter. One thing is clear: the eyes of society are on us, the business community. People are increasingly looking to business as societal change agents, as beacons of hope, and looking for us to lead the way to that better world that they desire. This is not a return to that profit-centric priorities of the past, but this is a bold embrace of a purpose-centric priorities that elevate humanity while driving healthy, sustainable profits. Conscious capitalism is that path forward. It's a movement that empowers business to prioritize purpose and people alongside profit. And conscious leadership, at its core, is the awareness of our influence. It's the recognition that every action we take, every decision we make, whether it's large or whether it's small, whether it's the micro in your team, the micro in your family, or the macro of your whole organization, your community, or the world, we're here just to shine our purpose. That's really what we're called to do as a conscious leader, to be aware of our influence, and our awareness then drives our decision making. And the outcomes are powerful. We know that businesses that put people and values at the heart of their practices experience greater engagement. I've heard that topic come up several times already this morning. Trust and innovation, and ultimately driving sustainable success for all stakeholders. Our region's success and well-being depend on this kind of thoughtful and intentional leadership. We have a really incredible group of regional leaders presenting for all of us today. And their purpose is simple, yet it really is profound: to share and celebrate stories of conscious leadership, stories that show how individuals and organizations in our Great Lakes Bay region have made intentional choices to uplift our community. And they are doing this by using their business as a force for good. They've made intentional choices. I'm going to step back from that. I'm going to let them share their intentional choices. But we are here to learn from them, and we are here to learn from one another, and to be inspired by these leaders, and to consider how our own influence can continue to create long-term sustainable impact together. And we have some really special people in the room today. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate the university leaders and business school students that are in our audience today. Along with their leadership team and students, please help me welcome Dr. George Grant, President, and Dr. Joyoti Ghosh, Dean of the Scott L. Carmona College of Business here at Saginaw Valley State University. Thank you. Dr. Neil McKinnon, President, Central Michigan University. Dr. Kent McDonald, President, Northwood University. Along with a table of business school students from each university present today. So your presence is a testament to the future of leadership, and we are just honored to have you here with us today. And students, as the next generation of conscious leaders who will continue to elevate our communities and shape the world in business in meaningful ways, we could not be more grateful to have you here with us as well. Thank you. We are also privileged to have Timothy Henry, the newly appointed CEO of Conscious Capitalism, joining us today. We've adjusted our agenda. So that we could take a moment to hear from Timothy, and we are really excited to learn about his future vision for conscious capitalism and to just give us hope for where we are all headed together. So I invite you to be fully present and open and just really embrace this time together. It takes a lot to get this many powerful, just impactful leaders in one room together, and so I invite you to really just take advantage of that opportunity to learn from them. It is my pleasure now to welcome our purpose-driven leadership presenting sponsor to the stage. So please join me in a warm welcome to Casey Lowry, President of Applied Innovation. And thank you. Thanks, Casey.
All right, so I get to do a shameless plug for Applied Innovation. So first I thought I'd just talk about what we do. So at Applied, we've been around since 1987. The backbone of what we've always done has been in the copier and printer space. In the last 10 years, we've gotten into the IT space. That's been a good transition for us. And that actually, so for those of you who maybe knew us before 2 years ago, we were Applied Imaging. Now we're Applied Innovation, and we felt like that really more encompassed what we do as a business. I think that's fine, right? That's what we do, but I think what more importantly to me is why we do it. Do we have the, I think I had one slide. Passion for service, for people, for business. Again, we feel if we're at service to one another within the organization, then and only then can we take great care of the customer. When I started with Applied, so I'm a second gen, proud supporter of all family businesses. I'm second gen. Current president at Applied, and I felt like 18 years ago when I started at Applied, my job was to sell as many copiers as possible. Now I feel like my job is to create a great place to come to work. Happy people take real good care of customers, and we just happen to sell copiers and IT. So thank you. So this is something that we started doing. This is our 4th edition, and I know Bob said he passes these out like candy. So. But this is our culture book, and so what we ask our employees to do, and this is our 4th one, we started this in 2015, is in 500 words or less, tell us what the culture at Applied means to you, and I'm just going to read one, and then we can get on with the show. What can I say? Applied Innovation is my work, my family, and my support system. I like to think as the company has grown, tripled since I started, that I've grown along with Applied. Applied Innovation has allowed me to pursue and reach so many goals that I thought were just dreams, from buying a house, taking international vacations, and reaching my family's goals. Applied and my coworkers have been behind me every step of the way and help hold me accountable with my goals. The culture at Applied has allowed me to thrive and really live my life to its fullest. And to me, that's really what business is about. In the end of the day, everybody has to collect a check to be able to pay their rent and things like that, and I feel like everybody in this crowd can make a difference in everybody's life by just being a great place to come to work. So thank you. Excited to be here. Get on with the show.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you and your father, John, and all their support for conscious capitalism, and certainly the efforts of Bob Martin as well. They have really helped us move along, and we're so appreciative of your sponsorship today. So thank you very much. My name is Gene Pickelman. I'm the board chair of the chapter here. And on behalf of the board directors of our chapter, we extend our warmest welcome. Thank you for attending today. What an amazing turnout, but I'm not surprised. Who would not want to come and listen to these great leaders of our community, and we're just so thankful to have them here. And I'm just blown away by everyone here. In fact, there's so many choices. I mean, we have 6 people coming up to speak, but I'm looking in the audience and I could see another 100 people who could be up here sharing their stories. So thank you all for what you do for our region. I am really excited for today's program. Angie and her leadership team have put together a really inspiring program. We have many speakers, we have a tight schedule, and since most of you know many of these leaders, and with their permission, I'm going to really shorten their introductions today, because it would take me a whole hour to go through their whole bios. However, I really encourage you to take the time to learn of their accomplishments and their histories from their bios in the program. Now, I have the great pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, John Lynch. John is the president of Three Rivers Corporation. John has a long history of working in private and public sectors, providing leadership with his business and the community. John serves on our board of Conscious Capitalism and is a 4-tenant partner. We have witnessed his leadership and positive impact on community, especially during the flood of 2020 and what Three Rivers did during that period of time. John is very strategic, he's thoughtful, helps break down difficult situations, challenges with common sense. Today, John will share his insights on the importance of acting now to expand leadership influence while maintaining a purpose-driven focus. I'm very excited to introduce John Lynch to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Y'all hear me okay? I'm going to put that right there. So, did you see the panel that they got for you to hear from today? Holy cow. When I was listening to Angie tell me about the event for today and the panel that was going to be here, I'm thinking, absolutely, we'll sponsor, we'll have a table. I can't wait to hear them. And then she said, well, we want you to talk. And I went, oh, boy, no pressure there. So my goal is to make sure that you all have some tangible tools that you can walk out of here with today that if you deploy will bring you closer to conscious leadership. So these things, we all go to a lot of these things, and anytime you can walk out of here with something that you can put to work today, it's a win. And I'm going to give you 3 of those. So right now, I'd like you to, there's a pen and a pad of paper in front of you on your table. Get out your pen. If you're old school, get out your phone. If you're not, get ready to write these down. Get ready to write these down. Are you ready? Cows, cameras, and cannons. Cows, cameras, and cannons. Right? So I heard a few snickers, and believe me, this leadership development stuff, I've been studying this my whole life. I have literally been to Harvard and studied leadership development. I've been to Medici's Palace in Florence, Italy. I've climbed the Acropolis in Athens, Greece, looking for the tools that can be useful in leadership development. And I have brought back from me, those travels, the single most beneficial leadership development tool known to mankind, and it's right here in this bag. I'm going to share that with you in just a little bit. But after all those travels, one of the things that I came to realize is that leadership lessons are readily available all around us if we approach the day-to-day with a leader's mindset. And I grew up on the west side of the state. I'm a native Michigander. Little village of Casnovia, Michigan. Population 320, doesn't even have a stoplight. I grew up on a farm outside of town, west of town. There's the intersection of M37 and M46. The family farm that my grandfather started over 100 years ago is on M37, just as you go north from 46. And we raised everything that we ate. So we always had beef cattle. And about the time that I was a freshman in high school, I think it was, we had 2 dozen, 3 dozen head of cattle. And my cousin Nancy, who's my age, and I were running the farm. Our dads worked at the factories in Muskegon, usually second shift, so we were responsible for the day-to-day of the farm. And I'm sitting in freshman English class, and over the intercom in the classroom comes, Mrs. Roberts, will you please send John and Nancy Lynch down to the office? They're being picked up because their cows are out. Now, how cool is it that you get out of school because your cows are out? I mean, that has happened to me. But as nice as it was to get out of class, that is not a good thing, because our biggest fear was that somebody would come screaming south down M37, up the hill, break over the top, and be confronted with a 1,500-pound cow standing in the middle of the road. That would not end well for anybody. That was the thing we were always worried about. And the barnyard was right next to the highway, because it was there long before it was a highway. So Aunt Jerry picks us up, we get home, walk up the hill, barn coat, boots, all that, walk up the hill, and here's my mom with her broom, which never left the house, in one hand, and a broken axe handle in the other, dancing around like a crazy scarecrow, trying to keep the cows away from M37 and cussing in Polish. And I said, Ma, they don't speak English, let alone Polish. So then she's cussing at me in Polish, which is a different story for another day. So Nancy and I would go down into the barnyard, we're patching up the fence, talking about how are we going to handle this problem. And she says, what do the cows want? And I said, what? And she said, well, what we want is to get the cows back into the barnyard. What do they want? And we quickly determined that what they want is to eat, because that's what they always want. So we go get a feed wagon tractor. She drives it in a big loop around the field, and they follow like a parade into the barnyard. Close the gate, problem solved. Let's talk for a minute about the leader's mindset, because mindset matters. When you think about leading, how you think is how you lead. And how you lead drives how your people act. And how your people act drives business results. So how you think drives your results. Today we'll talk about 3 dimensions of conscious leadership, those being purpose-driven leadership, continuity of leadership, and leadership influence. Before we get too deep into it, though, we should take just a half a beat to talk about what is leadership. Because very often people conflate leadership and management. And they're not the same thing. Perhaps you've heard me talk about this before. In summary, leaders have followers, managers have subordinates. Subordinates live under the authority that are assigned to the manager by somebody else. The magical thing about leadership is that the followers decide. You can stand up and wave your flag all day and say, I'm a leader. It's not about a title. It's not about your job description. It's about how you treat people and how they respond to you, because they decide. That's the amazing thing about leadership. And as a leader, your job really is to act as a force multiplier. You're there to help people grow and evolve and accomplish things that they didn't even know were possible before. You're helping them get to a place that they didn't see as a likely destination. And, unfortunately, it can be hard because people grow the most when they're farthest from their comfort zone. So as a leader, you're also in the practice of making them a little uncomfortable. So figuring out how to do this the right way is really what matters the most. Now, in purpose-driven leadership is all about taking care of stakeholder well-being. Said another way, what do the cows want? When you think about prioritizing long-term growth versus short-term gain, in the context of what do the customers want? What do the suppliers want? What do the employees want? You make great things happen for the long term. At Three Rivers Corporation, our values are respect, integrity, safety, and excellence. And by acting in accordance with those values, we leverage what we do each and every day for the long term. We leverage our daily activity to plant the seeds of long-term growth. We align what we're doing with our values. We're members of every chamber of commerce in the region. We participate with every economic development agency. We support, so many events across the region that, I see all of you practically every other day, it seems like. And it's all for good reason. puts us in a position to help support over 75 nonprofit agencies across the region. Entities that help people accomplish things that they didn't know were possible to begin with. So it's about planting the long-term seed. So that's the what. A big component to this is the how. How do you do that? And we don't have a lot of time, but I think the focal tenet in the how is to lead with civility. To lead with civility. That's a whole nother talk for another day. But when interacting with a civil leader versus an uncivil individual, people are 57% more likely to seek information, 59% more willing to share information, and 72% more likely to ask for advice. That, to me, sounds like a formula for success. Who would not want that? Who wouldn't want that from their family? Acting civilly is the magic sauce that helps you get there, helps you implement leading with purpose. All right, that brings us then to the second dimension of leadership continuity. And I'm not talking about succession planning, although that is part of leadership continuity. In this case, really what I'm talking about is having the commitment, the understanding to the purpose so that the actions are sustained when you're not in the room. I see some gray hair out there. Who knows what a Kodak moment is? Who knows what a Kodak moment is, right? A Kodak moment, Kodak was the camera and film company. And a Kodak moment was whenever you had a seminal event going on, something major happening, you took pictures to document it. Now, this is long before cell phones and so on. And so the Kodak moment was the thing that was worthy of committing the effort and the film and the paper to the picture because you could see it to believe it. Steve Sasson went to work for Kodak in 1974. He's the holder of US patent number 4,131,919, which is for the digital camera. Worked for Kodak. First digital camera had a resolution of 0.01 megapixels. The average resolution of the cameras in your phones today is about 14 megapixels. That first camera took an image in 23 seconds and recorded it to a cassette tape. And that camera weighed 8 pounds. Yeah. So obviously, this was his life's work. He was very excited about it. Kodak was known for innovation in photography. And he's thinking, man, this is going to be an amazing thing. This is changing the game. And Kodak said, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because at the time, they owned 90% of the domestic market and 60% of the global market for film, photo paper, and film developing chemicals. And they said, this digital camera thingy is going to kill our business. We don't want any part in that. So they licensed the technology to some other firms who developed it into what it is today. Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012. At the time, they were a 131-year-old company. It's ironic that the folks who are in the business of see it to believe it couldn't find their way to believe it to see it when it came to the digital camera. They were stuck on defining who they were by virtue of what they sold. And ultimately, it killed them, killed their company. So leadership continuity has two fundamental lanes that we have to be cognizant of. The first one is creating a group of people who are willing problem solvers, and the second is making sure that those problem solvers think strategically. Problem solving has 5 tiers. At the lowest level, the first tier, you have folks who wait to be told what to do. The next tier, you have folks who ask what to do. One tier above that, the third tier, you have folks who will recommend action and then go off and implement it as long as you sign off. Then in the fourth tier, you have people who will take action and then come and tell you what they did. And then the fifth tier, the gold standard, is you have people that go off and do the thing and develop a sense of being aligned with the purpose such that they know when to tell you what's going right and what's not. But they're out there looking for the opportunities and solving the problems in alignment with the purpose of your organization. That is the gold standard. That's the gold standard. One of the ways that we get there is to get people to think strategically. Now, strategic planning is a process. Strategic thinking is about seeing the future before it happens. At Kodak, if they could have seen the future before it happened, they'd still be here today. At Three Rivers, in this lane of continuity of leadership, the things that we tend to focus on revolve around coaching. Be the boss that you always wanted to have. Be the person that's encouraging me to think beyond the simplicity of the problem in front of me. Understand that we promote that which we accept. We promote that which we accept. So why not promote effectiveness and excellence? Help people understand the difference between being right and being effective. Because there are folks that get wrapped around the axle on that one. And then you have to demonstrate an interest in the development of your people that surpasses the interest you have in your own development. You should be more interested in how they're coming along than how you are coming along. So at the end of all of this, it brings me to the bag and what's in here. Most amazing leadership development tool known to mankind. Y'all want to see it? Yeah. Y'all want to see it? Yeah. All right, there we go. I mean, it's not that early. Come on. This is it. This is it. This is a World War I era military helmet, affectionately known by our troops as the salad bowl. The First World War was a particularly brutal conflict because it saw the confluence of high explosive artillery rounds coupled with proximity fuses, which meant that when fired, they could explode above people versus having to impact something before they would explode, which had devastating effects. When the conflict began, the Prussians, the Germans today, equipped their troops with steel helmets. The French and the English went to war with wool caps. And at some point, somebody said, you know, the other side's wearing steel helmets, maybe we ought to do that too. So the English went through a design competition to figure out what that helmet ought to look like. This is it. The fellow who won the competition is named John Leopold Brodie. This is actually called the Brodie helmet. And it was adopted because it could be stamped from a single piece of steel. You can make a lot of them really fast. And they did. They made a bunch of these. They put them out in the field. The troops were wearing them. And the enterprising generals, wanted to know, how's that working out? And so they sent some folks out in the field to figure out how that's working out. And what those people discovered was that the rate of injuries had exponentially increased after the helmets were introduced. And the generals said, well, that's a bad thing. Maybe we should not be using these helmets. And they surmised that perhaps because they were wearing the helmets, soldiers were emboldened and they took risks that they wouldn't otherwise take, or there were a litany of potential explanations. Paul Goldall wrote in the war surgical impressions gained in France in 1916 that the statistics recorded in the battlefield reflected the rate of head injuries increasing considerably because those soldiers survived. The fatality rate had gone down dramatically when folks were wearing the helmet. So this article, published in the Clinical Congress of Surgeons of North America in 1917, was the benchmark by which folks concluded, yeah, that helmet's probably a good idea. But we were this close to concluding maybe that helmet's not such a good idea. And rendering that conclusion would have had devastating effects. So when it comes to leadership influence, the third dimension, what we're talking about isn't so much how do you convince somebody else to get to the outcome that you prefer, although, of course, that's part of leadership influence. In this case, for conscious leadership, what we're talking about is positively impacting people and elevating their own approach to the problem-solving process so that they're seeing the whole playing field, so that they're asking all of the right questions and not concluding that the helmet's a bad idea before we really understand what the data tells us. All right, so at Three Rivers, this leadership influence thing really revolves around, what do we mean when we say leadership? Well, what we expect of each other is commitment, collaboration, coaching, of course, understanding the difference between leadership and management, and strategic thinking. Taking a problem or a potential opportunity and turning it over several times to make sure that we understand it clearly before we run off in the direction that we think is best. At the end of the day, to develop your leadership influence and help people get there, that's the what. The how is really connected to understanding how you destroy the boss cocoon. If you're the boss, formally or informally, you have to create an environment where people are willing to come and talk to you, particularly if the news is bad. Generally when I ask people, will your folks come talk to you if they have bad news? Well, yeah, of course they will, sure. And then I ask them, how do you know? Because if they laugh at all your jokes, odds are they're not really telling you the bad news. So how do you know? You have to destroy the boss cocoon, delete isolation. You have to anticipate, not be caught off guard by changing environments around you. You have to stay current, know what's going on. And probably most importantly, you have to obsess over client and employee needs. Because in our business, we build buildings. We build the thing. And don't get me wrong, the technical process of building the thing is amazing. It's fascinating. And our industry is brutal. There's nowhere to hide. Either you got it done on time and on budget or you didn't. It's that simple. But at the end of the day, all problems are people problems. And so this leadership influence thing is about understanding that technical stuff matters, but it's in support of solving the problems on behalf of the people that you're working with. All problems are people problems. And, with our team, we understand it's not about you and me, it's about them. It's about the customer, it's about the supplier, it's about the employees. All problems being people problems. So in our organization, and there's a table of my folks sitting out here today, you can ask them when we have a break. I am prone to saying some things that are in alignment with conscious leadership in these three dimensions. First, in terms of purpose-driven leadership, I will frequently say, the thing is not about the thing. The thing is not about the thing. Here's a problem, here's an opportunity. Okay, that's great, but the thing's not about the thing. What do the people want? What's driving this? What are the other dots that can be connected to this? At the end of the day, we can cuss at the cows in Polish or we can ask what they want. Finding out what they want is pretty darn productive. The second thing that I'm prone to saying is particularly if we're trying to solve a problem, is that's a great description of the problem. Now what? Because in leadership continuity, doesn't do me any good with the organization to say, well, here's what I think we should do, and have folks run out the door and do that. What we want is for the team to get to a point where they're breaking down the problem, coming up with the potential solutions, going off and implementing those in alignment with our purpose. So you've described the problem beautifully. Now what? Now what are you going to do? I always have to ask myself, am I scoffing at the 8-pound camera, or am I thinking about what the future is presenting to me? And then finally, one of the things that I'm prone to saying is, I'm sorry I've asked a poor question. I'm sorry I've asked a poor question. In the frame of leadership influence and helping people get to that higher order of problem solving and making sure that we're not looking at the numbers wrong and making the wrong decision about the helmet, I have to make sure that I'm asking the right questions and we're going in the right direction. And, you know, my people know that I'm not afraid to back up and say, I took that in a bad direction, you know. And they're very comfortable reminding me when that happens too, you know, which is a good thing. So this conscious leadership thing, cows, cameras, and cannons. I guarantee you, if you're intentional about thinking about the cows, cameras, and cannons in your own process as you interact with your people, your customers, your employees, your suppliers, you will come closer to conscious leadership. And hopefully that's useful to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
That was awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Hey, was I right in my introduction? Strategic, thoughtful, and attacking issues in an orderly manner and common sense. John, let's give him another round of applause. Thank you so much. Wow. You know, at this time, I would like to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation to our generous sponsors, and in this specific group, our Conscious Community Builder sponsors, and Fisher Companies, Morley, Covenant Health, and Central Michigan. Can we all give them a round of applause? Then as well, we also have the Conscious Leadership Advocate Panel sponsorship by Garber Automotive. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, our next session is a panel discussion, and this is going to be moderated by Dick Garber. I'm so honored to introduce all of these business and community leaders. They are all my friends, and again, I'll have a short intro for each of them. Please, again, take the time to read their bios in the program. Amazing stories. So I may ask each of the panelists to come on up, as I mentioned, as I begin your introduction. And we're going to start with our moderator for the day, Dick Garber. If you have lived in this region for any amount of time, you know who Dick is. His accomplishments and involvements in leading his company and building our community are truly second to none. When I look at the transformation of our community over the last 24 years, one thing really stands out in my thoughts, and that is Dick's purchase of the OHL franchise, the Saginaw Spirit, and the amazing impact that it has had on thousands of families. That's family fun entertainment. And just recently, you know, just bringing that Memorial Cup to our region and having a victory. I know, wasn't that amazing? Dick is also a founding member of our CC chapter and our 410 partner, and has supported the movement really since the beginning. Dick is, okay, just one more minute. Dick is very humble, compassionate, hardworking, competitive, and a high achiever. There's one thing that Dick has many sayings, like you do business with people you know, like, and trust, and things of that nature. But the one that Les and I always take away, he says, always do the right thing. The results will come. Please welcome again, Dick Garber. Now I would like to welcome Paul Furlow to the stage. Paul is the president and CEO of Morley Companies, Saginaw's third largest employer. Morley is also a 410 partner. Paul and his brothers, Louis and Chris, have steadily built 3 companies, which include business process, outsourcing, meetings and incentives, and exhibits and displays. Paul's leadership has just been phenomenal. He is, and through his leadership, has created thousands of jobs for our region, and really has strengthened our economic impact. I am most impressed with Paul and his concern for others, especially his staff and his leadership group. When you interact with Paul, he gives you his full attention, and you always feel good about that. I love his description of his colleagues. We are servant leaders who put others' needs first. Again, please welcome Paul. Next, another friend, Dr. Samuel Shaheen. Sam is president and CEO of Central Michigan University Medical Education Partners, MD, and serves as president and CEO of Shaheen Development, a family-owned, community-based real estate development company. Shaheen Development is also a 410 partner, and I hate to think where our community and region would be without the Shaheen family and their contributions to our community. Sam's leadership has led to significant community initiatives such as CMU Medical School, driving growth of our region, and most recently working on a huge initiative that will impact our community called the Medical Diamond Initiative. Sam has incredible strengths, a strategic thinker, big thinker, developer, and a great connector. Sam sees the big picture and shows us of what the possibilities can be. Thank you, Sam. Welcome. Our next panelist is Brenda Rowley, Vice President of Operations of Rowley Wholesale. Come on up. Rowley's Wholesale is a family-owned distributor of automotive and industrial lubricants. Previously, she was the Vice President of Administration for Monitor Sugar, now the Michigan Sugar. Brenda is a founding member and current board member of our chapter. And Brenda is a lifetime resident in Bay County and has served on numerous boards and community initiatives. Her fingerprints are all over the place. Brenda and I really started our careers at Second National Bank. I won't mention the year. Many years ago. And so we've had a long-term relationship, and I'm just so inspired by Brenda's caring and dedication and commitment to her family, her staff, and our region. Again, welcome, Brenda. And finally, A.B. Ghosh. A.B. Ghosh. A.B. Ghosh, Chairman and CEO of Hemlock Semiconductor. A.B. may be the least known of our panelists, having been working with HSC over the past 4 years. His deep expertise in chemical manufacturing and global business leadership is enhancing the company's ability to provide customers around the globe with the hyper-pure polysilicon used in the semiconductor and the solar energy industries. Under his leadership, HSC continues to invest to create jobs to bolster our region's economic growth. I've had the pleasure of getting to know AB over the last 3 years. Found him to be very strategic, a great listener, a humble man, and a high achiever. He and his employees are very committed to making our community brighter and vibrant. So please welcome again, AB Gausch. Mr. Garber, it's all yours.
We're all set.
Yes.
Is the mic working? Yeah, it is. I'm going to pull out here a little bit. I apologize over here if I cover up the panelists, but I can't see them if I sit back there, and that's not good. So thank you all for participating. It truly is an honor to share the stage with you. 4 people I have great, great respect and admiration for, and what a great start to the program. I look around the room and really, Angie said it and Jean said it, this really is a who's who. The movement should be so proud of the collection of talent in this room. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We don't have a ton of time. I'm interested, we all hear and read and have studied conscious capitalism. Many of us, all of us, have practiced it to some degree. We all have kind of developed our own interpretation of what that means to us. Maybe it's higher purpose leadership, et cetera. I'm curious in each of yours, why? Why? What does conscious capitalism mean to you, and how does that feed into your why and how you lead both personally and professionally? Paul, if we could start with you. Your why.
So it's a great question. I think for us at Morley, it really starts with our values, our mission, our vision, and our values. And a big thing that's foundational to us at Morley is known as the service profit chain. If any of the attendees today are interested in learning a little bit more about that, pretty easy to Google that and get some great case studies on that through like Harvard Business Review. But for the sake of time, Dick, the service profit chain basically says the pathway to profitability is through your own associates, through your own employees, right? So at Morley, foundationally, we recognize that in order for us to be unrivaled at amazing those we serve, and that's a key part of our vision, we have to be extraordinary when it comes to the way we interact with each other. We like to say at Morley, family comes first, and when we mean family, that doesn't mean the furlough family.
Yeah.
It means all those that we employ at Morley are Morley family, so you've got great Morley leaders here at the table. Everyone raise your hand. We also say, do what's right. Family comes first, do what's right, and be your best self. And by being your best self, that doesn't mean transforming yourself into someone that you think fits in with a Morley culture. It means just that. Be the absolute best version of exactly who you are in order to help us uplift our organization. So quite frankly, putting others first, being a servant leader as a means to a highly successful business requires putting others first and really making sure that you do a great job or try to do a great job every day at satisfying your own employees. And that's for us how we put really the whole concept into action.
Your why. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Sam.
Thanks, Dick. Thanks, Paul, for that response. I want to just take it up one level, and that would be faith. I think for most of us in the room, there's some higher power that you believe in. And for me, and I think for my family, and my brother Pete, and our mother and father, and our sister Sabrina, it was always instilled to us that if you are here on this earth, that you should do everything in your power to make this place better, regardless of what you're doing or how you're going to do it. But to treat other people the way you would want to be treated, just foundational, simple rules that are established in almost every organized religion. And so from a faith perspective and from a higher power perspective, I would take it up one notch, even above conscious capitalism, and that would just be being a good, mindful human being who treats other people and wants to leave this place in a better place than it was when we got here. And that would be my motivation. I was very fortunate to have a brother who lives it every single day. mother and father who instilled it in us from the time we were young children. And I think our mother is probably the one that influenced us the most about being community-minded. Our father was the businessman, the guy that gave us the education on business and how to negotiate and what being a good business person was. But our mother was the one that instilled in us the commitment to community and to other people and to the arts and to education and to those kinds of things. So I would leave it at that.
That's great, Sam. Thank you. Brenda, your why and its correlation with conscious capitalism and high purpose leadership.
Well, it goes back, whenever I think of conscious capitalism, it brings back to about this time back in 2017, when Gene called a few of us to get together for lunch and said, I've got this new conscious capitalism that was brought to my attention, and I'm really excited. And so Herb Spence and I met with them and talked about it. And I was chair of the Stevens Center at that time. And we went through it. And you get, after you went through the process, I'm going, wow, who would not want to be involved in conscious capitalism? Who would not want to be able to live it every day? When we think of our company, we've got multiple businesses in different states. When we look at what we do, obviously we have lots of employees, we have lots of vendors, we live in a beautiful community that we love. We were all raised here. And we wanted to take care of all of our stockholders. And so we just want to inspire people. I think one of our jobs is that we want to be able to inspire people. We know that we need to make money to be able to make all the rest. But if we do what's good, you said your faith is very strong in your family. I know your family, wonderful people. I've had the privilege of having a wonderful background in the farming community with my family. They're in the 4th generation. Rowley's is in the 4th generation. We have 2. And it is to be able to I'm not so much sure that with a legacy, but just to continue to do the good work that's been done in the involvement in the communities in our region, and also to provide employment and opportunities for people to think well beyond than what they even can imagine and dream big.
Thank you.
I'm always the last one to be a tough one to answer.
No.
No, I'm really privileged to be on the stage with you guys. And as Dick said, I've been here only 3 years. And my why, I had to think about it. Why am I in business? And I had a big influence from my dad, who was I'm Indian obviously, and he grew up in India. But his biggest thing was he was civil servants building the Indian country, which took independence in 47. And so he was in civil servants, all about, it's more than you. We're here to build a nation, and you got to be able to give back. And so from my why is really, I thought of my career because obviously I've not been in family business. I've been most of my life in a public listed company. But my why has always been, I try to challenge myself to achieve different things, difficult things. And that's with some humility and compassion, empathy. But along the way, my why always is, how can I help others learn and then grow? Because that, to me, is the best way that we're going to be able to have an impact on the community that we live in. And yes, I have lived all over the world, so home is where I'm staying right now. And but at HSC, it epitomizes what we believe in conscious capitalism. I only came upon conscious capitalism 3 years ago. But when I read it, I thought, well, that's what I've been doing the last 30, 40 years and what HSC has been doing. And basically, to me, you can't be successful in business unless you have a sustainable business, right? You cannot be successful. And to be sustainable in business, you got to be looking for the long term. And, HSC, we've been around for 63 years, hoping we'll be around for another 63 years. So me and my leadership team job is, all they hear me talk about is, I want to make sure we are sustainable the next 60 years. That's really it. Because if we are, I know we will do the right thing for the community we live in. Because obviously we're based, and so that's what's driving us to be why we're here today.
That's wonderful. AB, keep the microphone.
Okay.
We'll reverse the order. Every leader has someone who has changed everything for them. A mentor, a colleague, or even a community member. who was that person for you, and how did they influence and shape your approach to leadership and community involvement?
Well, I kind of answered that a little bit a few minutes ago. It was really my dad. I mean, it's right from a young age, as I said to you. He came over from Bangladesh. People don't know, during the part India got split up, and so they left all their homes and everything, and they came over, and basically came over to India to help help build the nation. And so mom and dad both came from same place and did the trek across in 47 to India. And they always instill, I'm one of 8, and we always instill in us that life is more about more than just ourselves. So that was always from a youngest period. All I heard was how to do give back to the community you live in, and that was the overriding theme. And I like to think sometimes I used to say, my dad, when I grew up, I'm a capitalist. I said, you're actually a socialist. I used to joke with him. Rest his soul, he passed away. But basically, it was all about helping everybody else rather than yourself. And so and thankfully, I've been blessed that I joined a company for 30 years, even as a listed company. But I joined a Dutch company who've been around for 400 years, and all the CEOs from the past, yes, they had a share price to worry about, but they worried more about make sure AkzoNobel was sustainable for the next 400 years, and that was the ethos that drove that company, and that's the way we were all living in that company. So to me, conscious capitalism came very easily when I read about it a couple of years ago.
Great, thank you. Brenda, who is that person for you?
I've had so many in my business life be leaders. I'm just so glad of what you've done to everybody here at this table. We've done so many neat things. My parents, my in-laws, and the businesses that they've done in organizations. But my mom is who I really, when I was looking at the question and thought, who was it? Because she was very pivotal. She worked, she raised 6 children, but she worked out until she had the first child. And at that time, when you were pregnant and you had a child, it was basically a lot of times you just didn't go back, or even while your pregnancy, you needed to leave. She did. She 4 sons and 2 daughters. She was also raised from a farming family as well. And when you looked at John, when they had the hard hat, made me think of my mom, because they had German soldiers that actually worked in their farm fields after. But she was a rock for me. I was the first girl. I was the 4th child, and skipped a couple of years and had 2 later. But my father was a wonderful person, and they both are deceased. Hard workers, devoted to this region. I can remember it was my senior year, and I was deciding, it was probably my first year of college here at Delta. I went to Delta, then went to graduate from CMU. And I was talking about where I was going to go on, what I wanted to do. And my brother was at CMU. He was playing football, doing good, great student. And I said, my dad was at one end of the table, my mother was at the other end of the table. And I said, I'm going to go to CMU, and I want to get my business degree. I'm thinking, applause, yay, that's great. The first thing that comes out of my father's mouth is that, well, you're going to go into nursing, or you're going to be a teacher. And I'm like, And I'm looking at my mother like, this is interesting. And and I was always a pretty strong and opinionated early on. And I just said, well, Dad, I guess I'll just have to do it on my own. Because part of us growing up on the farm was that we would work on the farm, help out, and they would take care of the education. So when he said that, it was like, this is interesting. So my mom, she was at the other end, and she said, Bill, Brenda, you don't have to worry, because we want you to go. We're happy for you. At that point, she was such an inspiration. And sometimes when my family talks back and says, well, Mom, you wasn't as strong, I'm like, I don't know. I remember that day. I remember if it happened yesterday, that she gave me an opportunity that maybe I don't know what direction I would have taken. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
That's great.
I'm going to make it pretty simple. I think foundationally it was my parents and Paul's parents. So I was fortunate to grow up in a neighborhood in close proximity to Mr. Furlow next to me, and his parents and my parents were foundationally the most important people that taught us hard work, family, faith, and community. And then I would say there was a second phase where you start to learn from other people, and I would throw Mr. Garber in that mentorship role. I was a young guy just getting back from Chicago, and Dick took the opportunity to allow me to get to know him and him to get to know me. He mentored me not only on business and community, but family. He talked to me about what I was going through as a young guy single, then as a married guy, and then as a family guy. And then I would say the third phase has been more recently with AB, others that are from the community, like Terry Moore, who's a retired healthcare executive for my Michigan, and others that I try to spend time with to learn from them. And I would say that those individuals may even not even know the motivation for why we get together, but I take away from those meetings lots of things that I've learned from them. And I think the more people you can bring into your circle and be open to learning from them, the more success you'll find in your life. Because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships, and those mentorship opportunities have allowed for those relationships to prosper and for good things to happen.
Thank you, Sam. You're doing okay, all right. With you're doing fine.
Taught him
You're doing
everything
fine.
he knows.
Yeah,
That's good.
hardly.
So not much of a surprise. A lot of my story and a lot of my answer would be very similar to Sam's. So blessed with just wonderful parents. Our Morley family members here know what a great mentor my father was, certainly not only to myself and my two brothers, my partners Louis and Chris, but also to really anyone that encountered him at Morley. I felt very similarly about Sam's parents, most definitely about Dr. Shaheen. Sam and I were just a couple of years younger than Dick, but we always looked up to him. We grew up in the same neighborhood, and now as adults, Dick has been extraordinarily generous with his time and enduring Sam, and being willing and open to mentoring us, and we do appreciate that very much, Dick. We appreciate you doing that not only for us, but dozens and dozens of people in our community. So just a quick story I'll tell about my father and his background. So my father's dad, my father's parents were Italian immigrants. His dad left a pregnant wife to come to America, didn't see his wife or his son for 7 years. So took him 7 years to work to save up enough money. His first job was in the steel mills in Gary, Indiana, where he wore an asbestos suit, and you'd work 15 minutes on with water pouring on you to work in like this shakeout in the steel mill, and 15 minutes off. So from there, one day they owned their own family hardware store and down on West Michigan. They had a little convenience store. It was like a 7-Eleven. They didn't call it that. They had their own little family hardware store, and they had a grocery store. When my father was in his late 20s, they wanted to sell the store to their cousins because he wanted to go to work at an entry-level capacity for Morley Brothers. So in his late 20s, he became in the most entry-level position there, where he was in the sales organization, but answering the phones when the phone would ring in sales. So from there, he one day had the privilege to acquire Morley in 1982 through the help of a lot of great people, a lot of great investors. So that was his story, and that was 40 years ago. He was just an amazing person of great faith, but really someone who had that North Star of always doing what was right and showing that was the best path to success.
An amazing guy, no question. I think I'm hooked up, so I think we're going to pass that back. It's interesting when we talk about mentors that all the panelists noted their parents. So for all the parents in the audience, don't think for a minute everything you say and do can and will be used against you, and the influence you have on the next generation. So that's really wonderful. That's worthwhile work right there. I've got individual questions for each of you. Paul, you just had the microphone. Leadership is not without doubt. Can you share a moment or a time when you doubted your approach to conscious leadership and felt pressure to put profits over people?
Definitely. And I love this question because I think it's nice for us to highlight. Does it keep turning on? Yes. Can you hear me? Sorry. So closer. There you go.
There you go.
So
yeah.
I think it's a great question because there are so many leaders, so many entrepreneurs in the room, and I can't underscore this enough. The path to any success comes with a lot of setbacks, a lot of hardship, and a handful of crises that you have to figure out how to get through with your leadership team and your ownership team. So when I think about that, Dick, it takes me back to the pre-COVID era. Sorry for the PTSD on COVID, but March 13th, 2020, I got a call from our IT organization, our leadership there. Ron Ridley, one of our great colleagues, is not here, says, Paul, I have to talk to you right away. Now, for those of you who run a business, that's never a good thing, right? So Friday, it happened to be Friday the 13th, and basically, you know, the clouds were forming, the pandemic was about to hit, and we all knew that we were gonna have to confront how to keep all of our, you know, employees safe while also sustaining the business, right? Now, there's no really textbook for this. None of us have been through it. So, you know, you had good intentions and hopefully some good judgment and some experience behind you to try to make those decisions. So Ron and his team explained to me, if we don't today buy 3,000 laptops, that would be, you know, part of a new platform and a system of servers that would enable us all, each and every one of our diverse business units, to work from home. They couldn't guarantee me that there'd be availability on Monday. So to kind of paint the picture, Michelle Hutchinson's here. She is a rock star among rock stars, and Michelle runs our meetings and incentives group. She's a globally known and respected leader in that space. But what Ron and his team didn't know, because they wouldn't have access to it, in our national sales organization and within Michelle's organization, we couldn't pick up the phone fast enough that week as millions and millions and millions of dollars of contracts were being canceled. So by Friday, I'm being told that we're basically going to be forced to run one of our most important divisions on near zero revenue for a year, as well as we have a multi-million-dollar unplanned capital expenditure. You know, so it was a tough decision, right? I thought, well, you know, ultimately you just have to try to figure out how to do what's right. And the right thing from a safety standpoint, and also from the standpoint of, you know, if we had a pandemic go through our customer service centers, we'd also run the risk of not being able to serve our customers, right? So that being said, you know, we said, Ron, go ahead and do it. Let's invest the money. You know, and Dick, I don't need to tell you, as a privately held organization, that means you take a look at your own checkbook and your two brothers' checkbooks, and you just make it happen. So we were able to do that, and thankfully, God was with us, and everything, you know, worked out. But it took a year or so for everything to shake out. Now, I'm happy to report, since I picked on Michelle, that she's coming off a record year, and she runs a 9-figure business for us, and she is just amazing. She and her organization are amazing at what they do, and they rebounded more than 2 times from the depths of that COVID, and did an amazing job doing it. But that's what I think back on a, you know, a tough decision where there was a lot of fear involved. And again, I just want to share with everybody here, everyone on this stage has been through crises and setbacks, challenges, and there is no easy path to what you're doing, but you're all going to get there, and most of you are already there and growing and building your thriving businesses. And just want to continue to encourage you to, you know, always remember those great times and those great tough decisions that you made that help propel your business forward.
No question. That was certainly a defining time. AB, creating conscious culture within an organization requires intention and persistence. How do you inspire down these principles throughout your organization? You might see benefit and value, but how do you get buy-in from your staff and your leadership team?
That's a great question, Dick. I mean, you know, firstly, I always believe in being intentional in everything I do, and really lead by example. Okay, lead by example, and not just say the words, but actually drive action. So I'm loath to ever take short-term decisions, even though, yes, we sometimes, being in a public company, work quarter to quarter, but I try to make sure that every decision we try to make is for the long term. And I think the message I try to send people, you know, we were given the former leaders of this business, got this business to where where it is today. And our job as the leadership team that we have today is to leave it in a better place than when we found it. That's the number one task we're trying to do. So every decision is made, are we doing it for the right reason for the employees, for communities, and the customer suppliers? Because frankly, if we're not taking that into account, we will struggle. So, in that journey, a couple of years ago when I first joined, HSC already had a set of values, but I think that the new leadership team felt that maybe we need to reinvigorate ourselves. So we went on a 2-day retreat up at Traverse City, and we basically immersed ourselves on coming up with a set of values that we could all buy into. That's great. And now we tried, and that was to get buy-in from about 35, 40 leaders. And once we do that, it's not about me. It's about everybody else talking the same language, and it's not slogans put on a board. It's really just living it every day and coming back to it and having a check-in and saying, are we actually doing this for the values we espouse for? So, yeah, I mean, to me, the greatest thing, it's actually, you got to be leading by example, and your actions speak louder than any words you can possibly say.
Walk the talk.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
great. That's great. Brenda, we have a responsibility to our community and the next generation. How do you see our current community in the Great Lakes region practicing conscious capitalism? And how do you see the role that plays in attracting and retaining our next generation of leaders? And how do you see that shaping our future?
Thank you. Start from the beginning again. I'm maybe a little stage fright here a little bit.
No, that's
But developing leadership, where are we doing in collaboration?
Yes.
I see it happening all over with our leadership programs. I see it with regional organizations that we're reaching, not just where we are and where we work, but basically working together and looking at this region as a place. How do we continue to develop it, make it where those that live here want to stay, those that are wanting to look for a place to come and make a living, that they're able to do it. So I think everybody's working very hard on it. And I guess I just wanted to kind of go back and how it really helped me and getting involved in the community and really shaped me. I worked with Jean over at Second National in Saginaw, so I was really working the Saginaw area. I was put on a leadership program through United Way, where we worked for 3 or 6 months. That actually, our employer actually took us, and after we were there for a couple months, and said, okay, we want to put you in this program. We want you to get know where you're going to be making calls, where you're going to be doing business, and what the strengths are and what the weaknesses are. That changed. It really changed me. And then in addition from that, after I finished that and finished my year rotation in management, I got on some boards. And since I've resided in Bay City, I went on the Bay County Historical Society, which is now housed at the Armory in downtown Bay City. We used to call it, when I was going on it, was kind of the hysterical board. When I was asked to join, they were funded mostly by millage. And so, of course, there was a millage coming up. And we needed to have a new building because we were outgrowing the building on the center, on Center Avenue. And so all of a sudden we were in fundraising mode. We were in getting out door to door and getting flyers out. But what it created, the people that I met there, I will always remember, dear to my heart. I mean, we laughed. Sometimes we cried because we weren't sure it was going to go. It was almost like being at the elections. Like, are we going to survive? Well, we did, and it's doing a great job. The second one that I got involved in that was very passionate was the Dalberry Family YMCA. That one is kind of the same thing. Got on it, thought it was going to be great. It is a wonderful organization. But I got to the board meeting, you really realize that our building was falling apart in Bay City. It's 138 years old now, the organization, but it was falling apart. So guess what? Another fundraising opportunity. Again, looking for new board members, some board members decided to leave because they said, you know what, I just don't know if I have the long haul. Well, I think I served maybe close to 14 years, and my last year served was the year after we opened the new Y. It helps you know other leaders, and it doesn't matter if you've been a leader for 20 years or just 5 years. It's a matter of having the passion and the will to spend the time and energy. I can always remember working on things, and my oldest son would come and knock at me one day. I was at the dinner or the table doing something about 2 o'clock in the morning, and he must have woke up. He saw the light, and he goes, Mom, you got to go to bed. You've got to get up in the morning. And I said, oh, I know, thank you. Gave him a hug. I said, but I really need you to go back to sleep so I can get my work done so I can go to bed. So we want to lead by examples, and there's so many wonderful opportunities for all of us to do, whether you want to spend 5 hours a week on some other project or if you want to spend a day. But there are opportunities to make this region better than it is today, and I'm just so proud to be here.
Thank you, Brenda. Sam, legacy. I know Pete's here this morning. You mentioned your mom, and you didn't mention Sabrina, the prettiest member of the Sheen family. Tell me.
I won't tell Mom you said that.
Yeah, no. Your mother and Sabrina, they're tied for first. Only because you omitted her. Only because you omitted your talented sister. The Sam, legacy. Few have done more for our community and region than you and your family. What do you want your legacy to be, and what do you see the relation to that in conscious capitalism?
Well, that's a great question, Dick, and I think legacy is just setting an example and leaving the community in a better place. So, Pete and I, our father was kind of the patriarch, and business decisions. Pete and I always thought we had a vote, and our dad had 3 votes. So yeah. we really didn't always get to do what we thought we wanted to do. Now, when we lead things, we lead it together on the family business side. And many times, we have pro formas in front of us that most people would throw away and not do. And we know that because we put them in front of other people that have been unwilling to do them. And many of our projects in the Great Lake Bay region, most of you that make decisions for profit alone, you would not see those projects in the Great Lakes Bay region today. And I'm not talking about Saginaw alone. I'm talking about Bay City, I'm talking about Midland, and I'm talking about Saginaw. We have lots of other markets within the country and within the world where profits could be far higher and more significant. But we consciously choose to do business here because this is where we live and this is where we raise our family and this is where we were raised. And so from a family perspective, all of us can make an influence on our children. I think Dick alluded to that. Pete and I really didn't have a choice as to whether or not we were going to come back to this region. I had an opportunity to stay in Chicago. I was offered a position at Northwestern, be an academic surgeon at a medical school. And between my brother Pete and my dad and my mother, I didn't have a choice. I was coming back. And what we hope is that what Pete and I think many of you in the room are trying to do, is to make that decision easier for our employees and for our children. Because recruiting to this area only gets better when the area is more attractive. Of course. Recruiting to this area and creating economic prosperity only gets better when there's a bigger population base that works together to really build upon the strengths that we have. We have an opportunity today, which is with the CMU College of Medicine. That opportunity would not be possible if it wasn't for Saginaw, Michigan. Saginaw, Michigan is providing an annual budget of almost $70 million to the benefit of the CMU College of Medicine to teach medical students. We have all the requisite residency programs in Saginaw, Michigan. We have 2 health systems that are the largest employers, the top 5 largest employers in the Great Lakes Bay region, all working together to create a legacy program for this community. That will also add economic vitality in addition to a physician and medical education pipeline, not only for Central Michigan's medical school project, but for their PA program, for Saginaw Valley's nursing program, for Delta College's allied health. All of these intersect in a way that will, in my opinion, be the best project and the largest project that the Great Lakes Bay region has seen in the last 2 or 3 generations. So that's, from a legacy standpoint, Dick, I would say that we all can do things well, and bringing organizations and corporations together to make something like this possible is critical. And Dr. Neil McKinnon, who was introduced earlier today, is a bright light for Central. He's here, obviously. Isabella County is a part of our region. Central Michigan University is the largest institution in our region for higher ed. We're blessed to have Saginaw Valley and Northwood also in our region, 3 higher ed institutions, all who can collaborate around this vision. And that's significant. The 2 healthcare institutions, Covenant in my Michigan and McLaren Bay, can all get together and collaborate around this initiative. And that's what legacy is all about, and that's what we're going to get done here in the next 2 years to raise the money and 2 years to build the project.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, really. I know we're almost out of time here. We're going to do a little Q&A, but we would be remiss, excuse me, Gene, I know we're on a schedule. We would be remiss. We've got AB on this stage with us. AB, would you just take a minute and share all the exciting things that are happening at HSE? It's truly, it's so exciting. Joanne says in all her time at Saginaw Future, this is the most exciting project she's ever been involved in, and it could be generational changing for our community as well. Please address that.
Thank you, Dick. So, yes, we're trying to do something challenging. Thank you to Joanne and all the other folks who've been helping us. But we embarked a couple of years ago on, for folks who don't know, we make polysilicon, but we're going to the next level down in the value chain. So we're going to be making solar wafers, which is the precursor to making a solar panel. So folks, if you go to Hemlock, you will see a massive, I joke with the guys, it was a massive warehouse, it's 1.2 million square feet of steel coming up, which will be, equipment will be going in January, February. We hope to make our first wafer in June. It's like 1,400, 1,500 jobs. We've hired our first 100, but we got a long way to go come January. So it's a really exciting time. And not alone, I mean, that's the Corning project. I look after Corning Solar as well. I don't go talk about it a whole lot. But in Hemlock, obviously, we are building. I was talking to somebody else. I think John was talking about it. You've done a lot of work for us over there. But yeah, we had a couple of 100 people. So yes, it's very exciting. We're hiring a lot of people. I'm excited to be part of that journey. And hopefully we'll leave the place in a much better place in a few years' time. But I'm excited. I don't know where we're going to find 1,500 people, but we'll figure it out.
We all got to help them. All of us in this room have to help them.
So I'm very excited.
Not from us, please.
Paul chapter 3.
Yeah.
Higher purpose leadership.
So,
Put your people
so I'm very
first.
excited with the work that you're doing, Dick, with Saginaw the Spirits and the work you do on CMU. I think that's going to create, because we have to make this region an attractive region for folks to want to come and work here. So this is all helping us to create this make the region a vibrant region for us. So it's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gene, you want to?
Wow, that was great, and thank you all for all of your comments. We want to spend a few minutes with getting out in the community and having you ask these great leaders some questions. John, I'm going to ask you to come back up, and while he's coming up, I also want to thank our stakeholder steward sponsors, Amigo, Spence Brothers, Saginaw Valley State University, and Three Rivers Corporation. Let's give them a hand. Just to touch on the last comment about we have jobs to fill, and Dick said we need to all help him. I want to just reinforce that. This is called stakeholder integration. You reach out to your stakeholders, you ask them for help, and I'm confident that many of you will do just that. You have to know someone who's unemployed, who needs to work, and we can find them out there. So let's give them opportunity and just stay away from Orly's employees. So, okay, we want to open it up. We have John and Mark to run around with microphones, and this is an opportunity for you to ask these wonderful leaders any question you want. So please do. Okay, we have Ricardo.
Hey there, and this question's for Paul. So I'm reading your bio on the little packet right here, and it seems like you're a leader in a lot of different things in the community. And I was just wondering, like, as a leader, do you kind of like lead kind of the same way you do for all your different things you're a part of? Or do you use different type of leadership styles for like the different communities or like whatever you're helping with?
Hey, that's a great question. And you're a senior, right, at Central Michigan, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a junior.
A junior at Central Michigan?
I'm getting
All
there.
right. Close to it. So a great person who'll be looking for a great career, AB. So to me, what's probably serves us all the best, just be exactly who you are, right? Kind of you do you, and this goes back to some of the beliefs we have at Morley about bring your best self. And I think that I try to, be genuine with people and sincere with people, whether it's on a not-for-profit board or with the many folks that really run Morley. And it's important that everyone recognizes that great companies are made up truly of great teams, right? There's really no great companies that are made up of one person that's good. And certainly, I would not be a good example of that. I'm someone of very mediocre talent, but I have an extraordinary leadership team. And I have two very, very bright, hardworking brothers who are partners of mine. So anything that you accomplish as a leader really is accomplished through hopefully influencing and inspiring your team to do great things. So to answer your question directly, I think we bring that same passion to the not-for-profit world, and a lot of what we do in the not-for-profit world is in order to benefit the community, to give back a little bit, but it's also a bit selfish because the extent to which we can enhance the community creates great things like a thriving performing or cultural arts instance within the community, like at the Temple and the Saginaw Art Museum, or strong educational opportunities within the community, whether they be the public school or the few great private schools that we have here. So a lot of what we do is hopefully an opportunity to uplift others in our community, but it's also an opportunity to retain and attract great staff to our community to help grow and build our businesses.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Art?
I've had for a long time a concern. AB, you mentioned you were looking for 1,500 employees. When I grew up, and it relates to what you all said about your mentors, my father was my mentor, and he taught me work ethic. I have to wonder if the young people coming out today who become your followers, your employees, come to you with that work ethic.
I'm going to start out and say absolutely yes. So any notion that young people today don't have the right work ethic, I think is a myth. I think that obviously there's pockets of that in every generation, but I find the young people that join Morley eager to have a great career, eager to get ahead, eager to be really intelligent in the way that they might approach various challenges, and really inspiring for the rest of us in the organization. So I would say that's a yes, Art. That's not something we've encountered.
I'm going to take a little different tact, I think, Art, or different response. I think it depends on which industry that we're in. For us on the family business side, I don't see it as much maybe like what Paul's talking about. On the physician side, I think this generation is far different than previous generations. They're motivated more by quality of life and by work-life balance versus the work ethic that was instilled in, earlier generations. So I think there's probably a complex answer to your question. I believe that in general, young people don't stay with the same jobs as long. I think that's data proven. I think that in the physician side, they're looking for work-life balance, and much of that has been societal. But that's what we see on the physician side. We've recruited close to 80 new physicians just to help teach our medical students and residents and provide care in the region. And we're seeing that, interestingly, from the younger group, which most of them are younger because they're just coming on board.
And I would also have to support that I think I've met many young people that are highly engaged, highly motivated. I think what we have to do, my generation, is that they do have different needs and different wants. They want to be able to be rewarded. They want to be able to have time with their family and friends. And so it's our job, I think, to figure out every individual has a strength. And what are our strengths, and let's work in how do we place them in an organization that they want to be in so they can be as successful for themselves and also for the corporation that they're servicing. So I have high hopes. We have a son-in-law that's going to be a surgeon. We hope that he comes back to this area, so I'm counting on you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Gene, if we can hear from the young students, I think it'd be great to hear their perspective.
Sure.
About their work ethic.
I personally have been working since I was like 13 or 14 years old. My mom has had many jobs. I'm a triplet, so one of three, if you could believe it. And I do think that there are, like Paul said, pockets of our generation that don't have any drive to do anything because their parents kind of gave them everything. But I do think that most of our generation does have a drive and a work ethic, and we do have a lot of strengths that are valued, and as long as we try to achieve those things, I think it can happen. So
let's give it up for the younger generation.
Thank you.
Hey, Gene, one observation that I think might be of value here is that when it comes to conscious capitalism in particular, one of the wrinkles that we have to think about being a little bit older is that there are a lot of younger folks that are working in jobs that are partially or fully remote. I've got 4 20-something children. 3 of them are out in the working world. All 3 of them are either fully or partially remote in their work. And the thing that we're talking about here today is how you build a culture amongst a group of people. So amplifying the challenge and building that culture is how do you reach out and integrate folks who are not necessarily in the building all day long, every day, right? So there's a piece there that I think we have to shift our perspective on what work ethic means. The definition of it is evolving. And I think young people want to work hard, they want to excel, they want to do well, but their experience with the working world is far different than mine was.
Great point.
The only thing I want to add is I think conscious capitalism can actually speak to the young folks who are more about purpose-driven than certainly when we all started work 30, 40 years ago, So I think this can really be an asset.
Yeah, conscious capitalism is a great opportunity to bring it to the students in the business schools and show them. We have another question. It was answered?
We have one over here.
Okay. We have another one. Mark?
As leaders, how do you avoid falling into the trap of the emperor not wearing any clothes? Having people tell you honestly what they're thinking without being fearful that there will be a retribution for that if it's not agreed with.
I don't have any problem with that because I got a bunch of leaders over there who quite happily tell me what I'm doing wrong. So they do that. I think you got to create a culture where you're authentic and transparent about it, and I'm always looking at the downside. So I'm always asking folks, what could go wrong, and that's our way, But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. As leaders, we have to be cognizant of that you just don't start believing your own, drink your own Kool-Aid, but staying humble and staying empathetic, I think, are the two great values a leader could have, to not let your arrogance get in your way.
And take at some point you have to take a hit. I've been living in a very unique world of 3 partners all working on one project. So you have Covenant Healthcare, My Michigan Health, and the university. Each one of them would like to do things their way. And we're in the middle of all that. And my role, this is separate and distinct from the family company, my role in that organization is, at some point, I become in a compromised position. We have leadership changes. People want to do things differently. And even though I'm supposed to be representing the partners organization, I'm still representing the interests of those 3 parties. Sometimes one will want to take the lead and do it their way, and I have to just sort of set back and try my best to encourage and socialize those ideas between all stakeholders, which isn't always easy if the lead dog wants to do it their way and not be transparent and not include others in decision-making. So I think that's the most important part of at some point you have to sort of step back and not be number one. And that's not always easy, especially when you're used to running a business or where you're working in a way that is much more direct, and taking advice, taking instruction from other people that sometimes don't even understand the entire complexity of the project makes it very difficult. So I think the answer to your question is just sometimes take a step back, make sure that you're vulnerable to your leadership team and to those steering committees or community committees that you're a part of. And that can be very, very helpful for avoidance of, just doing it my way or the highway kind of approach.
Okay, let's give these panelists a great round of applause. Thank you so much for your leadership.
Hey, Gene Pickleman, if the panel could also stay, I know some of the students would love to ask them some questions following the conclusion of our session. So those that can stay, that'd be great.
Thank you. All right. Terrific job. Awesome. Okay, moving on. We really want to try to stay close to the time that we have today, and it is now my pleasure to welcome a very special guest today, and that is to introduce the new CEO of Conscious Capitalism. Just a few weeks ago, Tim was selected as the new CEO, and we're just very thankful to Tim for taking the time to come and be with us today. We've had a great discussion last night over dinner, and I really got to know him a lot better, and he has some terrific ideas going forward. Timothy Henry is an experienced executive and consultant coach with over 30 years experience helping organizations become great businesses. He has over 30 years experience working as a trusted advisor from Fortune 20 to entrepreneurial owner-managed businesses across the globe. He has been with Conscious Capitalism as a trustee from the beginning. He's co-founder. And together with Raj Sisodia, who spoke at our first Conscious Capitalism event here, he's co-authored of the Conscious Capitalism Field Guide. He wrote a book on how to be conscious, so it's great. And so I'd just like to invite Tim to come up and share a few words about what he's experienced today and a little bit about what's going forward. So Timothy, thank you for coming.
Well, let me put my timer on because you guys are so good at staying on time. I would hate to be the person that messed it up. But let me begin by saying that I'm from Montreal, Canada. And if you know anything about Montreal, Canada, you know we're a little bit hockey crazy. And I want to celebrate the Saginaw spirit in winning the Memorial Cup. Well done. To come to town and find out that this is where it happened last year was really impressive. But you know what's also really impressive is that when we started this movement in 2008, maybe we sort of hoped there'd be a moment like today where you'd have almost 200 leaders and an incredibly impressive panel and set of speakers talking in the local community about how important conscious capitalism is to that community. Maybe we hoped that something like that would happen one day, but to come today and see it and experience it and meet some of you is an amazing experience to see what has happened in the world and how you have embraced the movement and taken it to such a wonderful place. So I'm just feeling incredibly privileged to be here today and to see what you folks are doing at the local level to make this relevant and practical. And John, yeah, make it practical, damn it. You know, like, okay, good in theory, but how does it work in practice, right? And that's one of the things that we're going to focus on, and I'll come back to that in a second, but I really loved your focus on that today. And the panel, wow, what an impressive panel you guys are. Talk about walking the talk on conscious capitalism. And one of the things that I took away, and I took away from some of the conversations with many of you this morning, is how conscious capitalism gives you a language and a framework for your values and living your values and making them concrete and being able to communicate to others that this is what we stand for and this is why we do what we do. So I was incredibly impressed, both by one, the fact that you spoke the language, you live it, and the way you did it and articulated it. That was impressive. Second was making a difference in your community. To talk about stakeholder orientation and how important it is, often when I'm speaking with large corporations, you know, we can talk about employees or team members, we can talk about customers and partners, we can talk about sometimes the silent stakeholder, the environment. And we talk about communities, and people will often go, yeah, and the community is a stakeholder. But today, I've experienced it and seen it in a way that is unique and powerful. And I just want to compliment you on that. That is amazing. And that's one of the big messages that I got today is how local chapters are so important for building communities. And you guys are just an amazing example of that. A round of applause to you in the room for doing that. So where are we going? You know, when we started this movement 16 years ago, we had some big ideas about what it might be able to do and could do. And I'm stepping in at a time when we've had some ups and downs as a movement, particularly over the last 5 or 6 years. And I've been brought in to sort of take conscious capitalism to a new level, to a new height, and reinvent how we do it as a national organization and really connect strongly with our local chapters. So one of the things that I want to do with our local chapters is make sure that we're aligned to help activate the energy that exists around this movement, and which you've demonstrated today. So having said that, there's two things that I want our team at the national level to be focused on every day. Are we making conscious capitalism relevant to business people? Can you connect it to your business in a relevant way? What does that mean? And then the second is we have to be able to enable you as business leaders to accelerate your journey to conscious capitalism. We have to help you be better at practicing this. Now, one of the frames we put it in is that right now, in some ways, we have a real issue with the word capitalism in business here in America. Half the people under 30 aren't sure they believe in this thing called capitalism. So one of the things we have to do is help elevate the practice of capitalism through conscious leadership and conscious business. So the way we're going to make a difference in the world, and it's never been more important than now, is to help elevate the practice of capitalism through conscious leadership and conscious businesses. And so that's what we're going to try to focus on by being the thought leaders in this space and stepping up in that space. So we're the go-to place for the latest thinking and the latest practice. So we'll be setting up a how-to academy, which will be the place where we are going to hopefully be able to support you accelerating your practice and making that available to our chapters. We're also going to be supporting our local chapters in some of their events in a much stronger way, but we're also going to be having a number of other events. So for example, an investment bank in New York is going to be sponsoring a lunch and then a day on the idea of conscious capital. So that's a really interesting idea, right? You all need funding, and we always say, sometimes in the movement, that you get the investors you deserve, but increasingly investors are looking to connect with businesses like that, and we need to encourage that. We need to nurture that in the capital world. We'll be doing an event in New York on conscious boards. How do we partner with NASDAQ and some others around helping to create more conscious boards? So there's a number of events like that that we're going to be trying to use to be out there to communicate to important groups around how we do these things differently. And then finally, we're going to be actively looking out for other networks. Many of you are involved with the YPO network. We have a large number of our members that there's overlap, and so how are we going to work with organizations like YPO differently than we have in the past to put conscious capitalism maybe inside? And then over time, the young people, we need to be able to reach out to the business schools, to the younger people in the audience who want to help make this a reality. So those are some of the areas that we're going to try to focus on as we go forward to, again, elevate the practice of capitalism through conscious leadership and more conscious businesses. And I'll look forward to your help and support on that. As I like to say at the end of every talk that I give, my name's Timothy, and I need your help, because we're going to do it as a group. So thank you. And I would be remiss without Angie and Jean, you know, the invitation and the hospitality you've shown me. Some mean steaks last night. Thank you so much. And I so much appreciate having the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Wow, that was awesome, and thank you, Timothy, for being with us today and sharing that. You know, in wrapping it up, I'll try to be brief and move through things. I got a lot of thank yous to make, but as I listened today, I heard three things, you know, consistently. Relationships matter. Strong relationships, we have a strong community and healthier communities. Leadership matters. We witnessed several stories from all these wonderful leaders in how effective leadership can really make a difference. Purpose-driven organizations is the third thing. When you have a higher purpose, a mission that you want to pursue, organizations that do that create unity within their organization. And with that unity, you start developing those relationships, and power comes about and what you can accomplish. And so, as some of you have said, you know, okay, so where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? And I think there's several things that we can do. When you really sit back and think about all the people in this room, I think last night I'm going through the roster, all the attendees, and looking at the businesses. I think it's over 30,000 30,000 lives that we're responsible for. And then if those lives are connected to a family, let's say of 4, that's 120,000. And then who do they connect? And we have the ability to make a difference with each of those employees every single day. And if they have a great experience, at work, that has to flow over into their family lives. And that's where I think our communities are broken in the family. So we have a tremendous opportunity to make that continue to strengthen the families, to transform our communities. So where do we go and what you can do? Well, there's a number of things you can do. One is be intentional, and we know that you're all practicing conscious capitalism. Raise the bar. And you get those ideas from the people that are really closest to you. How can we raise the bar to impact all of our stakeholders? You can certainly get connected within our conscious capitalism movement and join the chapter and get involved. You can be a 4-tenant partner. Easy to do, just contact Angie and I, and we'd have to, if you're not one now, you can certainly do that, and we'll be happy to help you out. You can connect with, there's an organization, Growing Conscious Organizations. That's Mark Sauter and John Wyrock and Mark Maxwell and a few others. These are really experts, and they can help you build that within your company. So I'd like to thank them for all the work that they do. And so at the end of the day, we can certainly make a huge difference in our community. We have a lot of things going on, the Medical Diamond, we have a Higher Purpose Project. We have so many wonderful opportunities to get involved with. And so I hope that you'll take advantage of that. We want to thank all of our great speakers again for today. Sharing your time and talent, and I know you had to prepare, and I know I asked a lot when we asked you to come here, but we're just so thankful for what the time you spent. I want to also thank all the universities, their presidents, Kent McDonald, Neil McKellen, Dr. George Grant. Thank you all for being here and bringing your students. Boy. The next generation, I call all of us pioneers instead of old people. We're pioneers. We kind of cultivated the land. We've helped bring this back, especially over the last 20 years, where I really felt our region was kind of broken in many ways, and we brought that back. But now all of you young people, and the emerging leaders, you're going to be the settlers. You're going to take what we've already created, and you're going to take it to a much higher level. We have confidence in you, and we are ready to support you. We're not leaving anywhere. That's still our purpose in life, is to make this a great region. So thank you. Thank you to all of you. The event sponsors, or 4-tenant partners, I tell you, 6 years ago is when we started putting this all together. We asked many of you to come along and help us, and your support has been consistent. Your energy has been overwhelming, and we just thank you for all the effort that you put in. The 4-tenant partners, again, are making it happen. They're the ones out in the community, certainly making a big difference. I've already thanked the speakers. Timothy, thank you again for spending the time to be with us. And I also want to just really single out Angie Krenz. Where are you? This is the person who has put this all together. I know she has a great leadership team, and we want to thank the leadership team and all the people that she works with, but tirelessly, she works so hard. I think you can see the quality of her work today, and so we are very fortunate to have you, Angie, and certainly all the leaders, Bob, Ricardo, boy, they've really worked hard putting this all together. SVSU, thank you for the great accommodation here. You guys have been with us from the very beginning, the Stevens Center for Family Business. You guys have helped us move forward, and we thank you as well. I think I'm, hey, with 3 minutes to spare. Dick, do you have any closing comments or anything like that?
Well done.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you.
Only none of us, I only would say none of us would be here was not for your vision, your foresight, your energy. You brought the movement to the Great Lakes Bay region. You deserve a ton of credit.
Thank you. Okay, that wraps up this session. Thank you.